So first, I want to thank everybody who has joined us for this third part of our BGR Satipaṭṭhāna retreat. And just to begin, I'll just say a few words about BGR, Buddhist Global Relief. So the sponsor of this retreat is the organization Buddhist Global Relief. We are a Buddhist-inspired, Buddhist-based charity organization with the specific mission of addressing the problem of chronic hunger and malnutrition around the world. And we currently have roughly 60 projects in countries ranging from Mongolia, Vietnam, Cambodia in the east, through other countries in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa, Haiti, Latin America, and in the United States. And we have three ways in which we tackle the problem of food insecurity. One is through direct food aid. A second is through promoting the education of girls. And the third is through promoting right livelihood projects for women. And the fourth is by sponsoring projects that involve ecologically sustainable agriculture. If you want to learn more about Buddhist Global Relief and to find ways to support our organization, you can go to our website. It will be flashed, I think, in the course of this retreat. And we have behind Buddhist Global Relief a group of monastics that constitute the Sangha Council. And two members of the Sangha Council are Ajahn Kovilo and Ajahn Nisabho, who will be conducting this retreat. And this retreat is based on the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, which is a discourse attributed to the Buddha, which lays out the scheme of meditation called Satipaṭṭhāna, the foundations of mindfulness, the establishment of mindfulness. And so far, we have had two earlier programs in this series. The first one was on contemplation of the body, conducted by the two Ajahns. And the second program was on contemplation of feelings, contemplation of mind, conducted by Ayya Ananda Bodhi and Roshi Dhammadipa. And now we come to the third part of the program and the fourth Satipaṭṭhāna on contemplation of dhammas conducted by the two Ajahns. And just to briefly introduce them, both of them are excellent monks in the Thai forest tradition. Ajahn Kovilo first encountered meditation through the Goenka tradition. Then he moved into monastic life. He received his full ordination as a bhikkhu under Ajahn Pasanno and Ajahn Amaro at Abhayagiri Monastery in Northern California in 2010. He spent 10 years in Ajahn Chah monasteries, both in the US and in Thailand. And then in 2020, he enrolled at Dhamma Realm Buddhist University in Ukiah, California, to study Pali and to learn about Mahayana Buddhism. And now he is living in Seattle, and he's a partner with Ajahn Nisabho in establishing a monastery there, which will be called Clear Mountain Monastery. I believe they found land for the monastery and have to start the building process. And Ajahn Nisabho is a native. So a Clear Mountain Monastery will be in the vicinity of Seattle, Washington. Ajahn Nisabho, the other teacher in this program, is a native of Washington. And in 2012, he went to Thailand to be ordained as a Buddhist monk. And then he received full ordination the following spring under Ajahn Anan, one of the disciples of Ajahn Chah. And he spent several years training in forest monasteries around the world with a number of contemporary masters including Ajahn Anna and Ajahn Pisano, Ajahn Jayasaro. And in the summer of 2021, he came back to Seattle to start the process of establishing Clear Mountain Monastery. And with this, I will turn the program over to our two Acharyas to begin the teaching.
Ante, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you and the whole Buddhist Global Relief crew and family. So that was, we're very honored to be part of your morning. Would like to appreciate everyone who's taken the first part of your Super Bowl Sunday to get your fill of Dhamma. That's fantastic. And yeah, we'll jump right in. As Bante spoke to, we are very happy to be part of the Sangha Council of Buddhist Global Relief, a really beautiful, wonderful organization. Hopefully, everyone here is very familiar with the work of Buddhist Global Relief, but you can and should see if you can learn more through their website. In a famous simile of the acrobats, the Buddha said that by looking after others, you look after yourself. And by looking after yourself, you look after others. How is it that by looking after others, you look after yourself? It's through patience, through harmlessness, and through loving kindness. And really, that's broadly speaking the work of Buddhist Global Relief in with very concrete actions. And the Buddha continued, how is it that by looking after oneself, one looks after others? And he responded, it's through the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness, which is what we've been talking about this past year. So I'm going to share screen and take us through a bit of an overarching map of the Dhamma. I think Yvonne will put a link to this so you can explore yourself, but through idhamma.org. And you see these overarching structures. So here we've got the Four Noble Truths. This is the largest footprint of the Dhamma. And what we're talking about is in the fourth Noble Truth, the path. Inside of that, we got an eightfold path. And zooming into right mindfulness, we are speaking about the four foundations of mindfulness, which is right mindfulness. And here specifically today, talking about mind objects. And just the mind objects are broken down into different sets. So this Dhammanupassana, anupassana, observation, contemplation, observing mind as mind objects, dhammas as dhammas in and of themselves, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. This is the way that one looks at the world through these different Dhamma categories. And the Buddha mentions five different categories: the hindrances, which we'll go into. Ajahn Nisabho specifically will give some guided meditation, about a 10 or 15-minute guided meditation on the hindrances, hopefully telling you how not to give rise to the hindrances. And then we'll give a talk on them, followed by Q&A. And then I'll speak on the 7 factors of awakening. And then you've got these other lists of dhammas, these other dhamma categories of the 5 aggregates, noticing how they arise and how they cease, the 6 sense bases, and the 4 noble truths. But today, yeah, we'll just be focusing on the 5 hindrances and the 7 factors of enlightenment, as the Buddha said that all Buddhas of the past, all Buddhas of the present, and all Buddhas of the future, all enlightened people, will become so through practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, through abandoning the 5 hindrances, and through cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment. So a special focus on these afflictive states of mind, which are just so common. And it's very humbling to notice how these mind states of sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt, how the Buddha described them 2,600 years ago, is so much how all of us experience them 2,600 years later. That's very humbling. So, and similarly, the factors of enlightenment, the bojjhangas, we can experience and practice and lead into those as well in a way which leads in the opposite direction. Bodhi Anga, the factors of Bodhi, that which lead to awakening and clear seeing. So, yeah, I hope everyone can be experimenting with ways of looking at these in your own. Oh, yeah, got it. Both in your own meditation and your daily life, because the hindrances don't wait till you sit on the cushion. They are manifesting. The potential for them is there all day long. So, really, Buddhism, the more you get to know it, and karma or action is happening all of our waking days. It's not just what we do on the cushion. It's not just what we do in monasteries. It's not just what we do at the meditation center, but it's what we do before and after, as well as during our meditation sessions. So, just to give some general ways of conceiving of these hindrances, um, if you're not yet familiar with the lists are worth memorizing them because you will find them over and over and over. The Buddha was a genius at giving us these puzzle pieces, these lists of Dhamma categories, Dhamma Anupassana. And rather than seeing the world as self and me and my story about Ajahn Nisabho or my story about any of you or whatever it is, we can see the Dhamma in line with these Dhamma categories, these impersonal phenomenon that arise in human minds, and not just human minds, but you can see greed, anger, and delusion in the minds of animals and even of gods and certainly hell beings, ghosts. They experience these as well. So, one way I like to remember the five hindrances are as leanings of the mind. So, rather than being upright and seeing the world in a very balanced, upright, and objective perspective, you are leaning and biasing yourself in different ways because you haven't taken the step up, the single step up to get this meta single T awareness that, okay, this habit of mind, which I've been cultivating for innumerable lives, uh, is not good for me and it's not good for others and it's not good for both. So the first hindrance is sensual desire. So that's how we lean into the world, the sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, which are attractive. Craving and attachment clings to those. And the second hindrance is aversion, the ways we push against the world, the way we don't want and the way we hate and are averse to sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. So we've got pushing into the world, leaning into the world, pushing away from the world. We've got sloth and torpor. That's just how we nod and fall asleep in meditation and in our daily life, in our um, conversations, maybe, hopefully not fully going to sleep in a conversation, but not as bright and balanced a mind as you can have. Restlessness is the uptightness of the mind, the upward swirling. And doubt is that just which spins around and really never comes to a landing place. So those are the hindrances. The enlightenment factors, we have seven. The first of which the Buddha said was always right, and that is mindfulness. So you can always practice this. The Buddha said that actually all the four Satipaṭṭhāna are basically our gochara, our proper resort. Um, any moment on the path is a moment of cultivating one of the four foundations of mindfulness. So, mindfulness is always right. We should be learning and becoming more and more familiar with this gochara, this sphere, this realm, this resort for the mind, knowing body, feelings, mind, or as we're talking about today, phenomenon or Dhamma categories. The next three, bojjhangas or enlightenment factors, are energizing. So you've got investigation of dhammas, you've got joy, piti, and you've got energy. And these will invigorate a mind which is feeling slumpy. So, especially helpful when the mind is experiencing that third hindrance of sloth and torpor. You can start investigating, why is the mind tired? You can bring up some joy that, great, we get to spend the first half of Super Bowl Sunday with a bunch of Kalyanamitta, learning about Dhamma. And that's a great thing, bringing up joy, bringing up energy. These are uh, invigorating qualities. Or if the mind is actually, you're experiencing a lot of that restlessness and worry, that fourth hindrance, then these next three enlightenment factors are very helpful. That is tranquility, passaddhi, concentration or samadhi, and upekkha or equanimity. So when the mind is feeling a little bit flighty or you're just feeling very unsettled, paying attention to bodily and mental tranquility, letting the mind coalesce and become one with a meditation object, the breath or the body or a mantra like Buddha, and just paying attention to equanimity. So we once did a retreat and somebody shared with us, I think it was on the bojjhangas, so just seven, we didn't even mention the hindrances, and they said that they did not like lists. And we just had a lot of compassion. You got to have compassion in Theravada Buddhism for people who don't like lists because we got tons of them. So if you love lists like I do, then you're just in human heaven right now because we got lots. But these are helpful lists. And if the enumeration of them just seem a bit heady, then leaning into that, feeling how these mind qualities, the afflictive ones, are taking us off balance, and how the tranquilizing ones or the enlightenment factors really are lifting us upwards and bringing more and more balance. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Ajahn Nisabho to take you into a deeper dive on the hindrances.
So we'll begin with a meditation together. Initially, Ajahn Kovilo and I both got our wires crossed and thought we were both giving talks on the hindrances, which would have been a really hindrance-full retreat. We're glad we figured it out. We'll begin with a meditation for about 10 or so minutes. So begin just by setting the body upright. Draw the lower spine in as a spring, allowing the upper vertebrae to balance on top of it. You can imagine a thin silk thread drawing the top of the crown of the head up to the sky. Notice any tension in the eyes and forehead and soften it. The belly, soften. Just allow breathing to deepen and slow. Settle. Just allow the breath to become more prominent, a center. Almost like a little hut that you can rest in. Take a second to warm it up a bit by kindling a sense of loving kindness or metta in the heart. And just think of someone who, or something, a parent, child, a friend, a pet, the squirrel outside. Just makes the heart warm, open. Kindle that flame of metta in the hut and warm it. You can attach a word to the image like love. It's okay. Forgiveness. And don't worry this morning, these 2 hours, about remembering everything that's said. You can continue to meditate through the talks. That's standard in our tradition. Just take these 2 hours to be rested, to put down everything and just rest in that hut, this home of the breath, warmed by a sense of friendliness in the heart of metta. The breath becomes prominent. You can allow it to come to the fore, but keep that gentle glow of metta in the back. Or if loving kindness feels nourishing, you can bring that to the fore. Invoke an image of another being that brings it up, and just allow the breath to be off in the periphery a bit. Just like someone in a hut might warm their hands at the fire at times, or turn and look out a bright window. That is one of the abodes of the Brahmas, beings of light, and the Buddha said Anapanasati breath meditation is the abode of the Tathagata, the Buddha. This is just a place to come home. But notice how our minds are mischievous and restless. You might find something catches your eye out that window and the mind's out the door before you can stop it. These are the hindrances, the nivarana, obstructions to peace. A thought of sensuality, what's for lunch, Super Bowl snacks, who knows? Anger, some argument you've just had. Sloth and torpor, a sense of drowsiness, sluggish awareness. Restlessness, just the mind being drawn out from a vibratory energy. Doubt, wondering endlessly about this and that. So your practice is whenever you find yourself having been drawn out, you can go through what we call the 6 R's. Recognize the hindrance, name it. Release that thought, fantasy. Relax the tension that will likely have formed, often in the face or the forehead or the eyes. Re-smile. Bring a gentle smile to the inside of your mouth, brightening. Return to your hut, the breath with loving kindness, and repeat. Just keep doing that. Recognize, release, relax, re-smile, return, repeat. Then reward yourself with an especially delicious breath. What would it mean for 2 hours to stop running? The bell, but I don't know if I had the right settings on, so it may have been a bit dull. People can slowly come out of meditation. You can also continue to sit though. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So the Buddha said that if he had four disciples who each lived 100 years and he taught them the four Satipaṭṭhāna nonstop, uh, they would they would all pass away before he had finished teaching all he had to talk about in regards to the four foundations of mindfulness. And we have approximately 2 hours, and I have about 10 minutes. Um, so we don't want to try to overload what we're conveying here today. This is just a chance to come to calm, to find a home, a refuge, some respite in the week together. But these hindrances, when the Buddha spoke about the four Satipaṭṭhāna, the four foundations of mindfulness, he called these, as Ajahn Kovilo mentioned, our ancestral ground. In the One Excellent Night Sutta, he said, one should not revive the past nor speculate on what's to come. Here, just here, one clearly sees in every presently arisen state. This insight is one's strength. And the ability to come back to our experience with these frames of reference, to see our bodily experience as just the body, to see feelings as just feelings, mind states as just mind states, and to see these categories of mental experience, phenomena, principles as just that much. instead of relating these things back to the self always, which is our implicit relational framework. I feel angry because of him or her. My body is less beautiful than his or hers, etc. To just see them as this much. Longpo Sucitta says mindfulness is hovering 1 inch above the ground. In these practice, it lets us come back, and when you see an object of experience as just an object of experience, the heart disentangles slightly from it. What knows greed is not greed. What knows a hindrance is not the hindrance. And that slight sense of separation lets us touch the world with a gentle touch, and move more and more from a relationship of clinging, upadana, in the world to one of giving, blessing, light. And in Joseph Goldstein's book, Mindfulness, the first 3 foundations, I think, take about 60 pages or so. And this 4th foundation is approximately 300 pages. So one useful context is this sutta gathered in this 4th foundation so many lists, like Ajahn Kovilo mentioned. When that woman said she didn't like lists, we both were like, oh no. But when comparative studies between the Chinese agamas, these Chinese versions of these texts that survived, and the Pali, what were compared, what really emerges as the 2 key components of this 4th foundation are, as Ajahn Kovilo mentioned in that diagram and in his introduction, the 5 hindrances, the nivarana, obstacles to calm, and the 7 enlightenment factors of luminous, bright mind states, what an enlightened being will operate from. And it's interesting because people so often will come to us and say, I tried to meditate and I'm just no good at it. I can't do it. And what they often fail to realize is in Buddhist thought, uh, what patterns dominate our mental processes and hearts on a microcosmic scale, on the scale of day-to-day thinking, also often are exactly the same patterns that dominate our life and keep us bound to cycles of suffering. And one of those meaningful pieces of meditation, yes, it's cultivating the bright heart, the bright chitta, as we call it, these 7 enlightenment factors. But another really key component is understanding the patterns that dominate so often our lives, the hindrances in part. And Ayananda Bodhi says for her first several years of practicing mindfulness and breathing, it was mainly contemplation of mind and mind states. And I think by implication or association, these Dhamma categories as well, of seeing, or at least that's how I've taken it in my own practice, of seeing the understanding what draws us away from the meditation object and becoming a connoisseur of the kilesa, of the defilement. A connoisseur of wine will take a sip of wine, learn the taste, and then spit it out. And we want to learn the taste of these hindrances so we see what draws us away. And this is why these are so meaningful, these hindrances to understand. So seeing when these come up, you want to cultivate a bright, warm, nourishing meditation. This is why we recommend the breath and loving kindness. They're a very simple pairing, but they allow the heart to be nourished in a way that so many modern practitioners are starved for, which is just a sense of care and calm. That's simple. This is your home base. And yet, when the mind gets drawn out, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you have a chance to understand this pattern a little more, because what you realize eventually is the way you keep fantasizing about lunch in meditation is exactly the same way your mind always is leaping to the next thing in your life, to the next vacation, and ignoring the present moment of learning and love and people around you right now, or the way you berate yourself with ill will, the second hindrance for straying from your meditation object, is exactly the way you berate yourself for not being a good enough husband or wife or daughter or worker. The way that you find yourself nodding off in meditation is exactly the way you blank out for days into a sort of automatic numbness with regards to your life. If you taste these hindrances in meditation, you understand them enough to let go of them more and more in your life. And that's what's so meaningful. So the Buddha compared these to bowls of water. He said sensual desire, that first hindrance, which I think Ajahn Kovilo so beautifully describes as leaning forward, leaning into experience, kamachanda. He described as a bowl of water. I was listening to Bhante Bodhi's talk on this just this morning. A bowl of water mixed with lac turmeric or indigo dye, so that someone looking at their reflection in it could not see their reflection. And similarly, when the mind is overcome with sensual desire, one sacred words long known to one will not be clear and not come to mind, and one will not be able to perceive clearly one's benefit or the benefit of others. And so the sense of the mind stirred up with color, being stained by desire, and knowing that when that happens, first you can look at the unbeautiful aspects of whatever's drawing you. You know, um, what does the donut look like 2 hours after you've eaten it? Something like that. Or the impermanent aspect. How many times have you become kind of myopically fixated on a desire and then found it only lasts for a few minutes and then it's gone? Just recollecting impermanence and trying to dispel that passion through that. Or just asking yourself, would I pay to watch this movie again? I only have so long. Do I really want to pay to watch this movie in terms of pay my time in this meditation? Is it really worth it? And allowing the mind to release. Or to understand that each of these hindrances has a key quality of suffering, contraction, heat, and often a contraction of bodily pattern. That's why in those 6 R's, it's so useful, that relax aspect or step. Noticing often when one of these comes up, you'll find tension in the face. And if you relax it and re-smile, the mind will drop back to the heart and you'll come back to calm. The second hindrance, vyapada, ill will, the Buddha compared to a bowl of water heated over a flame so that it bubbled and one could not see one's reflection. Similarly, sacred words long known to one would not be clear, and one would not be able to perceive the benefit of oneself or others. So when anger comes up, which is so common, recollection of the argument from a few days ago, anything like that, bringing up loving kindness, and often not towards the object of your anger. That can be a big ask, but often towards yourself. How much does it hurt to be angry? Just, ow, this really hurts. It hurts to dwell in ill will. The Buddha said, ill will, anger with its honey tip and poisoned root. I praise the killing of one thing, anger. Um, to recollect how those who push us in our lives are often the greatest impetus or catalyst we have for developing a breadth of heart and uh, depth of patience, which we would not have if not for them. These are our teachers, whether it be the politician or a partner or a boss. These are, I stayed at Abhayagiri for quite a while and monastery. And one monk there would always criticize me and for not closing the door quietly enough for so many things. And it wasn't Ajahn Kovilo. He was great. But initially it was quite annoying and led to a lot of aversion. But after time, I thought, if I had a senior teacher giving me this much care in refining my conduct, I would consider it such a blessing. And so for that year, I took him as my teacher. And, I did have to set some boundaries. We had to have a few conversations. But in the end, that was the most powerful practice of that year for me, alongside the meditation. These are our teachers. Some of you will know the story of Gurdjieff, a Sufi teacher who had one community member who annoyed everyone else. And one day he was gone, and that community member crossed the line, and all the other community chased him away. And when Gurdjieff returned, he said, "Where's so and so?" And they said, "He just went too far this time. We chased him out." And Gurdjieff said, "Bring him back. I pay him to be here." So who are your teachers? Can you dispel ill will by remembering the gift they're giving you, by giving you a chance to grow in this path? Sloth and torpor, uh, tinamita, the sense of lethargy. The Buddha compared it to a bowl of water covered with algae. Can you open your eyes a little, let some light in? Can you take a cold shower? Can you pull on your ears? That's one the Buddha recommended. Often, what I'll find is useful is to hold a small stone between your thumbs, and if they part, then it will fall, and you'll know that you've kind of slipped off. I know one monk who I believe he said he attached a rock to a piece of string, I think which he tied to something, maybe his ear, and whenever he fell asleep, it would fall off and he'd wake himself up, which he kept doing until it annoyed the co-abbot who was next to him. This wasn't us again, um, but just skillful means of waking yourself or just bringing to mind a genuinely interesting object. This is often the key for these hindrances is try to find an object of meditation which is nourishing and enlivening and actually interesting. Loving kindness, contemplation, scanning the body. If the mind is interested in that hut, it won't be as inclined to run out. Restlessness and remorse is the fourth hindrance, compared to a bowl of water ruffled with wind. Udacha kukucha, which is a great word. Anxiety into the future, remorse over the past. And the antidote to this in the commentaries is the breath. Coming back to the breath, calm. Just noticing the suffering of constantly hovering, or to circulate that energy through the body, up the spine, down the front of the body, if you need to. Circulate that energy out. And the fifth hindrance of vicikiccha, skeptical doubt, which is another one of the masterpieces of Buddhist Pali, fun words to say. And this is just the mind circling endlessly around. And in such, one knows wholesome doubt because it energizes the mind. And there is a place for that in Buddhism. Skillful investigation, vitaka, Dhamma the second enlightenment factor. But this sort of doubt exhausts the mind. And it's seductive because you think you can solve doubt through doubt. But as Ajahn Kovilo says, you can't. And to just note this is doubt, put it down, come back to the breath, and find often that if you approach that same question or problem after the doubt has subsided, it's no longer a problem or the path is clear. Often our problems don't get solved, they dissolve. And if this is all a lot to remember, just remember how to notice these. Having names for these is really key. There was a scientist who learned the name for those small holes in shrubs that animals burrow into. And after he learned the name, which I knew a year ago and then promptly forgot, he started seeing them everywhere. Once you know the names of these well and still them, then you become a connoisseur. And when you find yourself outside of the meditation, drawn away, you can name what it is. You can let go of the tension in your mind. You can come back to the meditation, find pleasure there, warm the heart, and understand that each time you do that, you're letting go a little more. You're learning a little more the flavor of these things, and that will ripple into your life because the heart that ceases to constantly be stirred by these defilements becomes a bowl of water, limpid, clear, so that someone looking into that reflection, into that water would see the reflection of their face clearly. And similarly, one whose heart is free of these five nivarana hindrances can understand the meaning of sacred texts just learned and know clearly what is the benefit for themselves and others. So let's hope you can all keep these in mind for the full Super Bowl afternoon.
That's right. And the rest of your life.
And the rest of your life. We've been talking about the Super Bowl a lot because we just found it's happening. So I don't know. We feel like we can relate to people
That's
now.
right.
And Ajahn
Yeah.
Kovilo gave a talk on it yesterday, kind
That's
of.
right.
The original Super Bowl is a bowl. Okay. Thank you. I think we have time for a Q&A. I know I ran a little over time, but well, hopefully I'll forgive me. So if people want, they can raise their electronic hand and ask a question that's coming up. I don't know if George is going to call on them or we will or Kim, but if anything's kind of coming up, feel free to say as much and just raise your cartoon hand.
I think actually we will.
Good, okay.
We'll call on people.
Okay, great. And we have until 10:05 Pacific time, so that's about 10 minutes.
And if you could raise your electronic hand through the react button, that's helpful for us. That allows us to
Yeah.
you bump to the front of the line. So
It's good to see so many people we know and new faces too.
yeah,
So
yeah. Let's go, Marcelo. Good to see you.
Hey, so good to see you too. And yeah, I your comment about the original Super Bowl really made me laugh, and it made me think of, these hindrances with desire and liking. Um, uh, when I was quite young, I used in elementary school, I used to break out into like a laughing attack. Me and my friend, we would get these laughing attacks in the middle of class and end up literally on the ground laughing uncontrollably. So, a lot of hindrances for me, I always think of like them being like negative things and like, oh, desire and like pain of desire. But what about things that like invade the mind, like a laughing attack? Do you have any thoughts on that, or like these positive things of like really liking calm, really liking joy? Are these hindrances as well?
Yeah, great question. If you want to really have a serious laughing attack, you should tune into Bhikkhu Bodhi's Dhamma talk explanations. He is hilarious. His capacity for telling stories is just phenomenal. So tune into Bhikkhu Bodhi if you want more laughter. And yeah, the Buddha did talk about these five hindrances a lot, but he also had other lists of obstructive mental states, and one which is called the different upakilesa or uh, like higher heightened defilements of the mind, like even I believe rapture, can be a obstruction for the mind when you're when the mind is very refined, when you're really aiming in the direction of samadhi and concentration. Even the sense of rapture can be an obstruction. Whereas if you're really in a depressed state, I would encourage anybody in such a state to go and find your most hilarious friend and just laugh on the floor with them for the next, 30 minutes if you can. So what might seem like a hindrance in one state, is actually can be helpful in another. You'll want to be discerning around that. But yeah, I think that is the case. Would you want to add anything there, Ajahn?
yeah, no, I think it's a really a good antidote to laughter when you can't stop yourself. Ajahn Jeff recommends imagining a bunch of metal in your belly. And there are times when that's really useful when you're in the meditation hall. So that's a good skillful means for everyone here. And I'd say that often these states are interwoven, like Ajahn Kovilo was mentioning with the laughter. There might have been a genuine sense of joy and goodwill. And as you practice and become a connoisseur of these different states, you might begin to unthread those things, and see that actually, when you really kind of get drunk on a certain mind state, even if it seems quite, the world kind of praises it, like a full-on laughter attack or really giving yourself to some piece of music or something, you might find there's a sense of a bit of hangover afterwards, and the mind becomes a little drunk and off center. And as you become more refined at kind of parsing these things out, you can really start to distill the bright, luminous, sense of levity, of joy, of humor from a sense of kind of intoxication, restlessness, all those other things that are flavored in there. Like you can't really imagine the Dalai Lama kind of having an uncontrollable laughter attack. It just would seem kind of, ignoble in a certain way. Like, so not to say that there's not a place for kind of that joy, but just to see that like as things go on, you can distill out the wholesome elements of which there are things. In anger, often there's a sense of real knowledge of like this isn't okay. In depression, often there's a real wholesome sense of dispassion, but there's other unwholesome elements of darkening of the heart, etc. too. And so just to see the world isn't going to give you good language for this, but Pali does, Buddhism does. And you can become to really distinguish out the vintage of the klesa. Should probably not use alcoholic metaphors, but Yeah. So, and to know that that will change, like what can seem like good-humored sarcasm in a worldly context, after a few years of practice, sarcasm doesn't sound beautiful anymore. It begins to sound harsh. And it's interesting to see that. So, Ajahn Kovilo and I do every now and again giggle a good deal, but
It's true.
not total giggle attack.
I was really touched. Ajahn Nisabho laughed at something I said yesterday morning, and it made me feel good.
I can't remember what it was. It probably
I
was,
remember it
he says
too.
a lot of funny things.
Oh, you do too. You
Yeah.
do. Well, hope that lands well, Marcelo, and wish you much wholesome laughter and much wholesome stillness. So
Thank you, Bante.
let's go. Is that Laurent?
Thank you, Ajahn. It's pretty nice to be here. My question is regarding restless, um, especially after an hour to an hour and a half of meditation, and also around the same time I get lazy and my mind just goes away again. I have a lot of physical issues. I'm getting older and I have restless leg syndrome, so that I started to be able to control more. But after an hour to an hour and a half, I'm trying. My goal is to go to 2 hours every day at least, every sitting, and I'm just having a hard time.
Hmm. Yeah, thanks a lot, Laurent. And
I
Laurent,
can't hear you. You're suddenly muted.
oh yeah, can other people hear us? Okay, we got thumbs up. Laurent, can you maybe
Yes, we hear you, Bante.
Okay, Laurent, can you hear us?
I
Laurent?
guess that would doesn't do much good to ask him, does it, when he can't
No,
hear us
you're
now?
audible. You're audible.
All right, Lauren, we're going to answer your question, and we hope you can hear us. And if not, there's a recording afterwards, I think. Yeah.
So Laurent, with as well as several other people on this call, will tune into. It's not really tuning into, but we do Zoom meditation every day, every weekday. We're up to on our winter retreat 8 hours a day. So we've got morning, noon, and evening, either 3 hour sessions or 2 hour sessions. And you can go to our website, Clear Mountain Monastery, and .org, and check out our calendar. And Laurent will join those frequently. And yeah, when you're sitting, kind of expanding your capacity for sitting, you really want to be attuned to this of, am I just fooling myself that I'm actually, you know, training in mindfulness is not just training in a posture, it's training in alertness and clarity. So if you find yourself, and actually I do find the Zoom aspect of that, and it's totally muted, so nobody's talking to one another. Some people have their camera on and some don't. When you have your camera on, it's actually, you're getting feedback that if you open your eyes and find that your head is, totally flopped over, then maybe you've been sleeping for the last 15 minutes. So yeah, being realistic. Also, some people will join and actually just do walking meditation for those. It's a great forcing function to have these Zoom meditations, but being realistic with, yeah, spending some of that time in walking meditation or sitting as is most helpful for you. Yeah, it's meditation, mindfulness, the four foundations of mindfulness. Certainly, this fourth foundation of mindfulness are very posture independent. So yeah, not reifying and just thinking that sitting is the only way you can practice.
I might just add that as you begin to practice, people sense this. You begin to get a very strong feel for the energies of the body, what is often called qi. And two things. One is you may find that actually your meditation is best broken up into like an hour and a half, and then a half an hour period of walking or a cold shower, and then another hour and a half or something like that. Like you can experiment a little bit. It is good to push those limits, but for me, I find two long sessions are better than one super, super long session. Actually, it revitalizes the bodily energy when I take that interim and gets things moving again. That can be helpful. A slight movement of posture, I find sometimes is enough, just from cross-legged to sitting what we call poppy up. It's like mermaid posture. Just or switching to a kneeling bench. Sometimes that small shift actually somehow changes things quite dramatically. And the final thing is to begin, often that sense of staleness or restlessness comes from energy building up. And to look into there's a book called The Way of Energy, which talks about these Taoist conceptions of how energy moves through the body, specifically this microcosmic orbit, which is like just moving awareness up the spine and down the front of the body and up the spine and down the front of the body. And there's more to it than that, but you might find it can be worth investigating in terms of how to keep the energy flowing or the mind flowing if you're sensing a sense of staleness, a vibratory kind of stagnation or restlessness, is try finding models of how you might circulate that as well. I think we do have to switch soon, but let's take one
Thank
more.
you.
David, please.
Thank you very much for your teaching. Meditation practice is helping me in some way, but I'd like to ask both of you for some advice. It seems like living in the Western world, we have to try to redefine success in the light of Buddha's teaching. Having lived in Southeast Asia, at one time Southeast Asian life seemed simpler, but today every country, everybody is striving to be successful in terms of material wealth. And I see Buddhist practice in a way of calming our mind and to be detached. It's a big challenge, and specifically from meditation, we try to achieve liberation and some level of wakefulness. But then you see other people define success in totally different way. There is the tendency to be alienated. I know it's the self. This self, ego, is trying to see all of that. But any advice? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, David. I'd say first, this is how it's always been. I think even in the Buddha's time, he said there are few with little dust in their eyes. There are some, though. There are those with little dust in their eyes. But to understand that, yeah, this path goes against the draw of the world. And that's okay. And honestly, a huge support will be finding community like you have here and like in your local community, people who resonate, other meditation groups. It's really important that community. We live very siloed existences in the West at the moment. And to find Kali Nimitta, the Buddha said, it's the whole of the spiritual life. He was referring to himself as a Kali Nimitta spiritual friend as well, but still taking that to heart. But then also to note, that you will begin to drift from the values of other acquaintances who aren't aligned with the path, and that's okay. It's to be expected. It doesn't mean you have to disparage them or alienate yourself completely from them, but it does mean that uh, take more and more your refuge and sense of sustaining framing and being held from spiritual friends. The Buddha said, do not associate with fools. And I mean, that's a harsh language, but there's truth to it. We have limited time on this earth, and we want to hold everyone in the world with care and metta and love, but it doesn't mean we have to spend all our weekend with them. Instead, you can come to a Saturday morning meditation, but you're in good company. I think if you've been practicing for a while, you've probably had this exact same thing of finding yourself, you've turned away from the values of the world, and yet you haven't yet come to be held by a new set quite yet, and to be patient with that until you begin to be more and more firmly rooted in this path. But it's a difficult transition. The Buddha said that one drawn out of Mars stream flaps around like a fish drawn out of water. It takes a while for the mind to become kind of solid in that. And you're in good company, but you have support much more now than I'd say a lot of people have throughout history. It's amazing that you can do this. There's been so many times in history where there'd be no potential to have this sort of community at beck and call. Ajahn, do you say anything?
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Great question. I think we'll be shifting into a guided meditation and then a talk on the bojjhangas, these factors of awakening, which really do uh, overlap a lot with the list called the Four Bases of Power, the Iddhipada, also translated as Four Bases of Success. So there's a lot of overlap, which I'll get into when I speak to that. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, for highlighting it. And yeah, we can shift into, and Samantha, maybe we'll have another Q&A period around 10:40. So
We're new to this new like exploding heart emoticon thing. Every now and again one will pop up, and
yeah,
it's impressive.
okay. Well, let's meditate together for 10 or 15 minutes. And probably have a mix of people newerish to meditation and many who've been meditating for decades. I would just suggest for everyone that meditation can become rote, and we really have to pay attention to not allowing that to happen. And this list of the 7 factors of awakening can be a good way to do that. So we start with mindfulness. Starting off mindfully touching into the body and mindfully looking at the mind, at the heart. So with the body, okay, how is your body doing right now? What does this mean to be mindful in this present moment? And physically bringing a sense of alertness with this long spine and relaxation. You can imagine your skin and muscles all draping over your spine like a coat rack. So mindfulness notes, how is the body? And mindfulness notes, how is the mind? And mindfulness in a sense can be both a question and a noting. Okay, the body is like this. The mind is like this. And that blends right into the next factor of awakening, of examination. Examination of dhammas, Dhammavicaya. Are the mind and body really tuned in? Are you in the zone, even a meditative flow, or are the mind and body lax, feeling a bit slumpy or tired? Or is it the opposite? Is it worry and flurry, really just capturing the mind and body? Examination. And this is a bigger question mark. And really taking interest. Whatever your object of meditation, whether that's the breath or a mantra, just taking interest. How's it all going? Could the mind be a little bit more on point, more collected? Could the body relax here or sit up there? And energy. What measure of touch is optimal right now? Is the mind feeling a bit dark and tired? In which case, yeah, using this energy faculty to really brighten the mind, you can even open your eyes. physically open the aperture of your pupils, let in more light, energizing. Or if the mind's already on point, it might be the slightest touch, just with deep kindness and real refined subtlety, just next breath, this breath. And this leads us to joy. The whole of the Buddhist path is one of getting better at happiness and inclusive of meditation. How might you remember that right now? Here in a safe place with really, really good people. Gratitude can be a doorway to this joy. Leading to tranquility, serenity of body and of mind. Any tension you're holding in the face, the shoulders, or the hands. It's just an old habit. Any tension of mind. Just calm and peaceful. And you can even use this as a mantra reminder if you find the heart needs a bit more peace. Tranquil. Tranquility. Peace.
Power went out, so we're going to go to the ocean where we have a signal. So maybe people can take a body break, and then we'll be back with you in about 5 minutes from the ocean.
Well, that was probably the best place we could have stopped in a guided meditation, just tranquility into peace.
Wait, we can actually show you a visual of peace.
That's right.
It's the Puget Sound.
Right. Symbols of the next final two bojjhangas of samadhi and equanimity. So yeah, we'll just give some more reflections on these 7 factors of awakening. As I mentioned, Ajahn Nisabho said, you don't have to worry about memorizing these lists, that this can just be a great time for people to relax and take a break, figure out a way to really attune to the Dhamma for the week. And that said, if you want to memorize any of these lists, that is great too. It's fun to exercise the memory muscle. People used to memorize stuff. I think about 15 years ago, before 15 years ago, people memorized things. And it's a fun monk habit that we do once we're only newly back to phones after giving them up for years. But these 7 factors, to mention them again, we have mindfulness, always appropriate. The 3 which are especially helpful for bringing up energy, that is investigation of dhammas, energy or virya, piti, which is joy or rapture even in its more intense aspects, and the 3 which are good for calming an already overly overly irritated or agitated mind, and that is tranquility and samadhi, or collectedness, concentration, and equanimity. And each of these have aspects. They're all very important for collecting the mind. In the discourse on mindfulness of breathing, the Buddha said that mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, brings about fulfillment of eventually the 7 factors of awakening. And there's a range of meanings for each of these 7 terms, from how we exercise bodily energy just on a day-to-day level, the joy of being with friends, the joy of being generous, the joy of just learning about Buddhist global relief activities, to small levels of concentration that you might be able to just taking a minute break in your workday every hour. That's some level of concentration. So I like the image of a staircase, and it's as if you are revisiting these different 7 factors of awakening in more and more lofty aspects. So when we sit down to formally meditate, we're experiencing a more refined version of these factors of awakening that we might be able to practice and experience in our daily life. But whether sitting or walking through the world, mindfulness is always important. So what is that? We've said it a couple times now, and probably all the other presenters, Ayananda Bodhi, and certainly Bhikkhu Bodhi, this refrain in the Foundations of Mindfulness Sutta of one pays attention to or contemplates dhammas as dhammas, mind objects, phenomena, these categories as simply phenomena, as simply dhammas, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. So that's right mindfulness. It's a bare awareness which is balanced. It's a bare awareness which is balanced. So that aspect of putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, that's important to be paying attention to. If you are, if your mindfulness is not encompassing or is somehow blind to this aspect of abhijja domanassa, of craving and aversion towards the world, then it's not right mindfulness. So paying attention to a balanced mindfulness. Dhamma vicaya, investigation of dhammas. We mentioned to David that this list of 7 factors of awakening overlaps with the 4 bases of power, which are interest, or chanda, wholesome desire; virya, which is the next foundation of mindfulness; chitta, or attention, bringing the mind to something; and vimamsa, which is similar. It's very much like this Dhamma vicaya, investigating what does the mind need, whether it's in meditation. Does the mind need more calm, or does the mind need to be invigorated, bring light to practice? Is going outside, actually, might that be good for your practice? And chances are it would be good for your practice. So investigating, and similarly when you leave the cushion, investigating how well are you spending your time. These other aspects of right livelihood that Bhante Bodhi mentioned, that BGR pays attention to. This is an important aspect of our lives. It's how we live the Dhamma into the world. And so investigating, what is our livelihood like? So investigation of Dhammas works on many, many levels. Next, we're looking at virya. It has the same root as the word vira, or hero, I believe cognate with virility, this potency of mind. It's that which is able to endeavor to abandon unwholesome states and to cultivate wholesome states. And when you are practicing meditation, you're hopefully seeing the more refined aspects of that. But really, effort is there, even if it's just in its maintenance phase, for much of the formal, maybe for formal practice as well. It just gets subtler and subtler. It's like learning any skill meditation is, and that when you first start out on the violin, you first start out playing basketball, and your free throws are horrible, your upstrokes with the violin chord are not too good, and your downstrokes are not too good. Your bow work is horrible, but then you get more and more refined. Similarly, your capacity for effort gets more and more attuned to what's actually helpful in abandoning unwholesome mental states, those things which darken the mind, and to inclining towards wholesome mental states, kusala dhammas. And that does naturally lead to joy. The Buddha did frame these, as I mentioned, with sati, or mindfulness, being the fulcrum. Ways you can use the first three of balancing the lethargic states of mind, and the latter three for balancing the overly agitated states of mind. But they're also sequential. There's a sutta where the Buddha says when you develop sati, it leads to Dhammavicaya, investigation of dhammas, which leads to energy, which leads to joy, where we are now. And the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, I believe, Dhammapada verse 290, is that when you notice that by abandoning a lesser, a more coarse form of happiness, you gain a higher, more refined form of happiness, sukha, then the wise person will abandon that lesser, more coarse form of happiness, form of joy, in favor of, with their eyes set on that higher form of happiness. Certainly the case in meditation. The course of the jhanas is one of letting go of even things which were initially wonderful, like joy. You need to let go of joy when you move from the second to the third jhana. And even from the third to the fourth, you're letting go of sukha, even of pleasure. So, and in your daily life, off the cushion, finding dhammic joy, your friendship, kalyanamitta, is the whole of the holy life. So finding and associating with Dhamma friends, even if it's just online. Dhamma friendship online is a real thing. It's a real thing. So hooking up with, there's lots of ways to associate and meet with different Dhamma practitioners around the world. Pretty much any time you want, just find a community. So from that, we move to tranquility, or passaddhi, tranquility of body and tranquility of mind. And here too, you become more sensitive to the ways that you're holding tension in the body and in the mind. The Buddha said that you can train yourself to give the gift of tranquility and peace through your bodily movement to other people, thinking just by this peacefulness of my faculties, I can give a gift to the people around me. So how can you, off the cushion, move through the world in a more and more tranquil way to give a better and better gift to the people around you? Samadhi, collectedness, this is true on the cushion. This is very much one which we actively cultivate in express intent when we're on the cushion, paying attention to a very simple object, the breath at the tip of the nose, a mantra, just feeling the whole body, paying attention to recollection of the Buddha, whatever your concentration object is. But the spectrum of concentration of collectedness does bleed into your daily life. Hopefully everyone can think of people who you would just say, that person in your work or in your family, or that monk or that bhikkhuni is just, they're a very collected person, very concentrated person, and that has come from practice in this life and probably in former lives as well. And finally, upekkha, or equanimity, this capacity to have poise. Bhante Analayo likes the word equipoise. And this is good because while the Buddha said that we should train and realize that I'm the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, whatever I do for good or for ill, we do have this control, some degree of control. Still, there's also the truth of not self. So we always need to have this capacity for equanimity. And we do fully purify equanimity in the fourth jhana, but it's just the quality of a mature human. I don't think that the adjective mature could apply to someone who didn't really live and bring this quality of upekkha, equanimity, equipoise, into the world. So how can we do that? We can practice on the cushion, and we can practice it when we go about our daily lives. So I do personally, although Ajahn Nisabho gave you permission not to memorize the list, I really hope you do all memorize the lists, because they're great. And if you're going to memorize, 5 items, you memorize them for like your groceries. Why not for your Dhamma for the rest of your life? It's a great thing to do. So we just really encourage you. I think we're both very grateful to be able certainly to have this interaction with Bhante Bodhi, this way to interact with him, with the whole Sangha Council, Ayananda Bodhi, our monk brothers Jin Chuan Shi, Jin Wei Shi, Venerable Dhammadina, our sisters at Shravasti Abbey, and the rest of the Buddhist Global Relief crew, Kim and Yvonne. Thank you all so much, and hope everyone can figure out ways to tap into and really explore what Buddhist Global Relief has to offer, and figure out ways you can bring all of the 4 foundations of mindfulness into your life.
Andamayam Dhammakatayu Sadhu Karang Dadama Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami. Some of you might know Ajahn Kovilo has translated sadhu as way to go. That was awesome, yep. Which I hope Bhikkhu Bodhi is okay with. But just to add on what Ajahn Kovilo is saying, when we came back to the U.S., we really did walk into this landscape on faith, and to find such a brilliant dharmic family and such warmth waiting for us was truly a blessing. And I know people can look with some degree of disenchantment and concern on the state of the world today, and there certainly are things to be concerned about. But just to also note the level of brightness and spiritual awakening that's also present right now. Just as 2 monks might have to really quickly robe up and run off to the beach when their power goes out, sometimes when things get dark, it opens up whole new vistas. And, to find sort of a community like this in the midst of things and such brightness is worth noting and balancing our gaze and perspective with. And also just to notice kind of the beauty of having an elder like Bhikkhu Bodhi here. I really think, it's kind of, it's strange being a young monk giving a Dharma talk while Bhikkhu Bodhi's on the Zoom call, because
very strange.
Inappropriate, something like that. Like just so many of us, he was our Dharma doorway, and to see him stewarding this dharmic landscape to some extent, and giving a route for Buddhists everywhere to touch the wider suffering of the world through Buddhist Global Relief and all the volunteers that hold that together is truly a blessing. So those of us who are on this call right now, you're touching a very meaningful intersection of worlds, and we rejoice in that. And yeah, may we practice together for many years and lifetimes as well.
But also nibbana quickly.
Yeah, except if we attain awakening, which we hope more than the other thing. So
I think turning over to Bhante.
Weren't you going to conduct another Q&A session?
I think we were, yeah. We could do that for a few minutes, Bhante.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah,
You have probably about 10 minutes to
All
go.
right.
Thank you. Apologies. We lost our slip of paper.
We lost our slip of paper in the rush. So we have a chance for Q&A if people have any questions, and we might have some cars driving past us as we talk as well, or a seal. So not the driving part.
Yeah, so Mata Jayatilaka, she has the
Oh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn. I really, it was amazing a session, and much gratitude to your valuable teachings. I'm really interested in the 6 R's that you mentioned. That was really wonderful to learn that. And in particular, the second one, the release, you said. Now, first of all, you recognize and then release. What does that exactly, how would you do that? Say, for example, if I have anger, would I, after recognizing, would I reflect on the danger of the anger, or would I advert my attention after recognizing that there is anger to my breath, and then hopefully that would subside the anger a little bit. I don't know. How would one release the one after recognizing, please, Ajahn?
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. Samantha. We
Thank you.
Yeah, in the Visuddhimagga, the path to purification, one really long section is how to release anger, actually, because there brings so many skillful means, because this aspect of release, letting go, chaga, petinisaga, it's a word, I think it's one of the quintessential motions of the Buddhist path is, this third noble truth of cooling, nibbana, release of craving. And so there's not just one route to that, but basically finding a perspective that works for that release. And it'll be different things at different times. So with anger, sometimes it really might be enough to let that, you're going to have to try a few skillful means. Sometimes maybe just feeling loving kindness for yourself will be enough. Other times reflecting on the conditionality of the thing you're angry at or the person. Often the reason we can't let go, we can't release, is because we don't understand how someone could be some way. But then I think we all have this experience of understanding what someone's childhood was like, or what they're going through at home, and being like, oh, of course they're agitated. And there's a release in that. Sometimes the release is just seeing how much it hurts, like often tracing back to that link of Vedana feeling and just being like, this is suffering. Like often moving away from all these complicated other meditation objects and just noting when I'm angry, like, oh, dukkha, this really hurts, dukkha. That's enough for a release. So you have to really the antidotes will be different, but you're right. What you're aiming for in each of those cases is some ability to have the hand let go a little bit. And sometimes just naming it is honestly enough, because at least then you realize there's a hand holding something. It's not that the hand and the object are the exact same thing. And sometimes just naming anger as anger is actually enough. Ajahn Chah was once asked, if a mind state comes along, do you always have to break the meditation and investigate? And he said, look, it's like you live in a village, and sometimes, you pass these people along the road every day, and if it's someone you see every day, you don't have to stop. You can just give them a wave and say, oh, hi, blank, and then keep walking. But maybe the person is especially persistent, or it's a new person you haven't seen before, and then maybe you do have to kind of speak with them a little longer, learn their history, and so on. So the antidotes will be different for everyone, but release is the essential thing you're aiming for, even if it requires different skillful means.
That's wonderful.
Just want to say, Samantha, your voice is very peaceful. You have one of the most, Buddhist voices I've ever heard. It's a gift to the room. So
Thank you. Probably after listening to both of you, Ajahn. That's wonderful. Looking forward to practicing the 6 hours.
Please do.
Lovely. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And you and everyone else, please come visit Seattle whenever you can.
These are powerful
Beautiful.
things. Freud famously said in his interpretation of dreams, the best I can do is change your neurotic misery into normal human unhappiness. And Buddhism can help us articulate these supernormal states of the factors of awakening. It really can lead to a different brightness of heart.
Call on Yoon, please. Yoon Chow.
Thank you, Venerable Sirs, for sharing your time and wisdom today. And thank you, Bhikkhu Bodhi and the wonderful Buddhist Global Relief for hosting this. Just a request, could you share the one-page visual you created on Canva at the beginning of today's session, which is a helpful visual summary? Yeah, I looked through the links and I couldn't find the visuals in the slides.
Yeah, there was one from the Dhamma Prezi site, but there was one which I created, which I can share with Kim or Yvonne, and maybe it could be sent out in a next Buddhist Global Relief email.
Yes, yeah, it had this very nice visual graphics with like 7-step ladder with mindfulness at the top.
Yeah. Yep.
That is helpful. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciated seeing that too. And I can say to him.
Yeah.
And
Good work on the artistic canvas. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you. Let's go to Hassa or Daniel.
We have a question. We are wondering about balance. This is not super related to the actual topic of the retreat, sorry, but wondering about balance and the overwhelming urge to throw one's phone in the ocean.
Balance with regards to everything or just to the phone in the ocean?
The phone, but if you can elaborate on everything in the 1 minute you get to answer my question, then I would be amazed as well.
So just to get a little more...
Mainly how, we have our phones and we have to use them for things, and yet they can be such a source of so many problems, and when we get frustrated, we would like to just throw that out entirely.
I would recommend anybody who's close to Clear Mountain, we give away these poly stickers, and we do have a group of people who've joined the Dukkha sticker on the front of your phone club. So it's not just on the back of your phone, but it says Dukkha on the front, just as a reminder.
It gets in the way of things in a good way.
Yeah, it does.
As to the, I actually like that answer quite a lot. I'd say, I think this is something everyone is working with. If those of you who've been watching the Walk for Peace monks might have, Venerable Panyakara gave a talk on your relationship to your lover, and by that he meant your phone. The last thing you say goodbye to every night and the first thing you say hello to every morning. And I think it was quite an insightful, phrasing. So just really getting some constraints. There's boxes where you can lock it away, but, really notice, and, apps you can have to turn off your ability to access internet at times. But yeah, like really making sure you're putting it away for large swaths of the day, maybe from, a certain time at night to the morning, no news before noon. And 1 day a week, we call it the Uposatha Day, this sort of Buddhist Sabbath on, it's traditionally on full and new moon days, but in the West you can often align it with a weekday so you can conveniently keep it. But just to really, and we're going to have a car drive past us right now, and they might be confused by what we're doing. Hi, car. All right. Just that really holding, that's something that I think people can use more, is that Buddhist Sabbath. 1 day a week where you hold the 8 precepts, put the phone down, really pull back, and kind of take a chance to reorient and see your attachment. If it's the water you're swimming in every day, it's hard to see how attached you are. Ajahn?
No, I think we all have to figure out skillful means with that, because you figure out one mechanism, you get one app, and then the mind outsmarts that app, and you really have to be quick on figuring out ways to really befriend the real world versus the phone world. So.
I would say consider unsubscribing from your streaming services. That's a step people can take, and it's a good step. Just to push it a little.
Yeah. Well, we can pass it to Bhante. Thank you, everybody, for your questions.
And please do visit us we really want to create a wider community here where people can come and visit. We just put an offering on land. We're hoping to make a monastery somewhat near to the city, which was actually partly based on Bhikkhu Bodhi's advice to us that we didn't have to be 2 or 3 hours outside of a city. We could be near enough that people could reach it. And yet it's forested. We hope people tune in from afar and just drawing these two communities together, and we're delighted to be able to contribute.
And hopefully someday Bhante will visit us in person.
Yeah.
Is this the property where you're planning to have the monastery, where you are now?
No. This is just the hut where we've been living. Yeah.
That's where you've been living for the past 2 years or so?
Yeah.
4 years. We were invited for 2 weeks, and that turned into 4 years. We did ask permission to stay.
And it's so close to the ocean.
Yeah. We're right by the Puget Sound.
We had to walk a bit.
We did have to walk in a somewhat dignified way, but very quickly. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so thank you to Ajahn Kovilo and Ajahn Nisabho for very, very illuminating very, very informative and very inspiring presentation on the Dhammanupassana, contemplation of dhammas, taking the two paired sets or lists from this. Well, everything is in the form of lists in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, but in the Dhammanupassana, we have these two opposed lists of the 5 hindrances, which are on the negative or unwholesome side, and then the balance or the antidote to that is the development of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And when you read the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, you see that the Buddha is always addressing bhikkhave, 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 and bhikkhu, bhikkhu, bhikkhu. So he's addressing it to monks and taking the monk as the exemplary practitioner. But for the lay people, I say, don't lose heart, don't lose hope. In the Satipaṭṭhāna Samyutta, I just had found it, search for it. There is a sutta, let's see, this is Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 47, sutta number 29, where there is a householder by the name of Sirivada who becomes very ill, severely afflicted with a severe illness, and he sends a message to his assistant to go to Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, and to report that he's sick and to ask Venerable Ananda to come to him. And so Venerable Ananda goes to visit this householder and instructs him, you should train thus. I will dwell contemplating the body and the body, feelings and feelings, mind and mind, dhammas and dhammas, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed longing and dejection in regard to the world. And then the householder Sirivada says to Ananda, he says, as to these 4 foundations of mindfulness, I am seen engaging in these things, for I too dwell contemplating the body and the body, feelings and feelings, mind and mind, dhammas and dhammas. And then he adds, as for the 5 lower fetters, I don't see any one of them still remaining within myself. And in this way, he's implicitly declaring that he's attained the 3rd stage of enlightenment, the stage of a non-returner. So those living the household life should bear this example of Sirivada in mind and continue to strive and to dwell in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And so we're going to conclude that according to the schedule, I was supposed to say some more words about Buddhist global relief, but I think in their own concluding remarks, the 2 Ajahns have already spoken about Buddhist global relief. So all I could add is that if you want to learn more about the work of BGR, just go to the website. Particularly, you could look on the section on projects. And I have to say, though I helped to establish Buddhist global relief, I'm like the founder of Buddhist global relief, but I'm amazed myself at the tremendous range of these projects and how they're helping thousands and thousands of people around the world escape from that trap of poverty, hunger, malnutrition, and to really lead fulfilling, meaningful, dignified lives. So please really take a look, and it's quite very impressive, the work of Buddhist Global Relief. And for that, we have to really credit our staff, our team, headed by our executive director, Kim Behan, and her team of assistants. And now I also want to thank all of the people who have contributed in the background to this particular retreat, including Kim, who's been in charge of the planning. I think Patricia Brick is here, so she's played a significant role. And we have George Clapp, who is our master of our IT, information technology, and Yvonne has been the host. Did I get it? And Val Clark is the one, our graphic design artist, who designed the announcements, the posters for the retreat. So let's thank all of them. And we will be ending, as the way we usually do, with a sharing or dedication of merit. And the team had asked me to do it, but I think you have a very nice way of doing the Punyanumodana in the Thai tradition. So perhaps the two Ajahns would like to do the Thai style of Punyanumodana.
Great, thank you, Bhante. And we'll do the English. And I think maybe, Yvonne, if you were willing to put, I think we gave you the link. We're not able to, okay, it looks like the screen is shared.
And before doing that, just to notice, I think someone said there are no great acts, just small acts with great love. And I think it's Mother Teresa. And the work BGR does, it's just, you really should look into the programs because they're these small, very focused programs that are so meaningful and really beautiful and worth rejoicing in. So.
Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Maybe we can pay respects to Bhante.
Okay, Sakiyata. And then let us all pay respects to the Buddha. So we could do 3 bows, even mentally, to the Buddha. 1, 2, 3.
And Bhante, we would like to announce that every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m., we have a Mission Majjhima group, which we're up to Majjhima 77, so we're more than halfway through the Majjhima now, and people can join on. And if you wanted a Super Bowl halftime show, it's the best show. Yeah.
And also to say, I didn't mean that Buddhist Global Relief's projects are small, but they're actually intimate and human scale in a way that means they're very effective. And just to put that out there too.
Thank you, Bhante. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Ajahn.
Bhante. Thank you.
Kovilo,
Thank you,
Ajahn
Bhante.
Nisabho.
Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
Ajahn.
Mama
Thank
Fred.
you,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bhante.
Thank you,
Venerable.
Venerable.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ajahn.
guys.
Venerable.
Thank you so
Sending many
much.
blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ajahn.
Ajahn. Thank you, Bhante.
We appreciate you so much.
Thank you
Ajahn,
so
it must be
much.
really cold.
Little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Bhante.